Okay, looks like we're ready to roll.
Yes, we are on YouTube and UGTV.
Thank you. As we call the meeting to order, I want to announce that due to COVID-19, we have individuals attending remotely. All participants joining by phone should mute their phones when not speaking to avoid background noise. During the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak so the public that is participating knows who is speaking. This is critical given the number of remote participants and is current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. Now call the meeting to order. Would the clerk announce the meeting and call the roll, please?
A special session of the Unified Government has been called for Thursday, September 17th, 2020 at 5:00 p.m. for a presentation by the Election Commissioner, followed by an overview of the motor vehicle operations. Roll call: Townsend, McKiernan,
Here.
Ramirez,
Here.
Johnson,
Here.
Kane,
Here.
Markley,
Here.
Walters, Commissioner Walters, are you on? Philbrook,
Here.
Bynum,
Here.
Burrows, Commissioner Burrows, Albee,
I'm sorry.
Burrows, we have you present, and Mayor Albee,
Here.
and Commissioner Walters, are you on?
I do not
Okay.
see him on.
All right, thank you. Tonight we have a presentation from the Election Commissioner, followed by an update on motor vehicle operations. Turn over to Mr. Bach to introduce staff.
Thank you, Mayor. We are honored this evening to have our election commissioner come over and visit with this evening. With this being a presidential election year, there's a lot going on with what's happening with our election process. So Mr. Newby has offered to come over and tell us about everything that's going on through his process and some outlook on the upcoming election.
I think Mr. Newby was having difficulties getting called in. He's logged in to share his screen, but Emmerich is working with him right now.
Okay. Well, let me see if I can call an audible on this. I did tell my motor vehicle staff they would be coming in later. Do we have Rick and Andrea on the line?
We do.
Mayor, would you like to wait a few minutes for Mr. Newby and see if he can come on, or would you like us to move forward to our motor vehicle presentation?
Yeah, let's just give it a couple of minutes, but if not, we can move on.
Okay. We'll just stand by and hold for a minute.
I see Mr. Newby looks like he's appeared on the attendees. Mr. Newby, can you hear me?
He is not on yet. That's his computer. He doesn't have audio.
Well, all right, let's go ahead and move forward, Doug.
Okay, well, we can promote him up, and Mayor, if he's able to get on while we're getting everything going, then we can always press the pause button. So Rocky, if you'll promote, it looks like you're doing it with Andrea and Rick up to the panelist schedule. And of course, they'll be having a presentation they'll be bringing up, but I will, with all the activity we have had this year regarding motor vehicle, we thought it would be timely to come forward to the commission and give you a direct update from our county treasurer, Rick McKessick, and the deputy, Andrea Parra, and let them talk about activities that have been going on out at the Motor Vehicle Center this year, really as what things have happened with COVID, and then the steps of items that have happened since then. So with that, this department works under the Chief Financial Officer, Kathleen Von Atchen. However, I believe Rick is going to start the presentation, so I will turn this over to Rick and let him take it from there.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Rick McKessick, and I'm the Unified Government Treasurer, and I appreciate the opportunity to present to all of you tonight. The motor vehicle operations had basically significant impacts that occurred due to the pandemic, the closures, the need for distancing, and all of those things. And so it's quite a challenging situation that we're going through. We are well aware that the citizens are dealing with challenges just trying to get into the office and get their work completed. And so I'm looking forward to the opportunity to give an update, let everybody know where things are and how things have been going. And so with that being said, I just thought I would give a little bit of a background to tonight's presentation as an update on everything where we currently are, but just to give a little bit of a background. Our office was closed to the public for 11 weeks back in March through June. Now, during that period, our office was operating for individuals that sent in any of their work or dropped it off. We were processing everything that came in and answering emails best we could, and all those typical functions we were operating. We just didn't have people walking into the office. And during that time that we were closed to the public, everything that occurs that causes people to need to come in to get motor vehicle work done still happened. People still bought cars. The registrations, the calendar clicked and registrations became due and need to be renewed. All those things still happen. So the work just didn't go away. We had a number of people that did reach out and brought their work in through other methods without having to come into the office. But too large a portion of the public simply were making a choice to just wait until we reopen to the public. And so when we did reopen in June, on June 8th, at that time we had no backlog because we were working on everything, but it was like the proverbial floodgates opened, and that's when everybody started trying to come in and get their work completed. And the problem is that the system that we have in place simply wasn't designed to absorb all that additional work into the regular flow of process. We estimate, based upon the statistics that we've looked at, that in June, we were approximately 22,000 transactions behind where we need to be. Now, those transactions weren't, as I said, sitting in our office at that time. They were still sitting in the hands of the public. So when all of those things are factored in, that put us in a very precarious situation to try to make adjustments and make changes and get started going towards the road of getting all the work completed. Is the presentation up?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I just hadn't seen it. So I'm going to turn it over to Andrea Parra, who is the Deputy Treasurer, and she's going to kind of give an update on the current status of where we are.
Hi, everybody. Andrea Parra, Deputy Treasurer. I'm going to kind of just dive in. Thank you for having us. Very much a lot we want to go over. Some information that I'm sure constituents have called, asked, questioned eventually. Hope this is better serving and can kind of better, stabilize those questions and give them the answers that they are just struggling to get. Just kind of where the backlog was in comparison to where we are now. The current status is as of mail drop-off work. We have no backlog. Everything that we've received from March through today has been opened, organized, prepped for next steps of processing. We were at one point over 2 weeks behind of even opening an envelope, let alone seeing what was inside and processing. For the yearly registration renewals, we have no backlog. There is nothing sitting that isn't current month, which would be September. Getting those processed every day, regardless of how they're being brought in online by mail or Dropbox. And also at one point we were months behind there as well. Anything received prior to September 1, as noted, has been processed with the goal to never exceed the month we're in. So by September 30, anyone who has their renewal in our office will be processed and back post date stamped to September 30th date. Anybody that recently bought a new car, we have no residual backlog there either. As Rick alluded to at the 22,000 transactions, there is still some delay, but it's not because it's sitting in our office. At one point, we were over 4 weeks behind from what would have been March, April, May into June. We have got that all cut up and we are processing anything that we date stamped received from that mail from September 1st. And this week we've exceeded that week and now we're on a next week. So we're about 2 weeks out. Not ideal, but not as bad as it was. Continuing on, we also have some additional backlog items that we refer to, which is going to be our motor vehicle email handle, which was at one point over 1,200 unanswered emails starting March 13th. Once we closed, we've got it down to about 406. Just to kind of put into perspective, traditionally, if we have one designated staff member, to give an example, only answering emails, we can get 50 to 70 on average responded per day. But we also are getting 50 to 60 incoming that very same day. So we have to designate additional resources and we are moving staff to help get what would be more than one person at a time doing that, knocking that down as quickly as we can. And we also have a backlog of unheard voicemails. As of September 8th, we are at about 158 of those. We also were up to about 400 when we were closed, that we are also tackling the same type of process of getting in, answering, responding, apologizing, getting the information there as much as we can. Next, I kind of want to just give you all a visual of what that looked like during what would have been the worst of times, which would be the picture on the left. As of July 13th, that would be what our backlog looked like. It came in buckets. It was not small by any means. That is all work that we had not even been able to open. We had triaged it all, organized it into what would be the picture on the right. And as of September 3rd, all of that work from the left was processed. So it kind of lets you see what it really looked like at the worst. And now what should be a normal visit to the office if you were to see it. Just want to go over some stuff that we've done to better assist the constituent, the efforts we've put through in the last pandemic months. First and foremost, we created an online form for the newly purchased vehicles through Open Cities. It essentially gets you to kickstart your own title and registration process yourself through a question and answer type of form that self-guides you through what you'll need to submit to my office once you are prepared to do so. With that, we had to have a way for people to do that. So we got a Dropbox installed out at the Annex facility at 8200 State Avenue. As mentioned, we started doing a mail triage system that has continued to follow its same process today, this morning, this afternoon. We have one temporary employee who comes in every day and assists with all organizational rules related to that process, because it is not just simply doing a letter opener and opening an envelope. We really are very specific on, the residence documentation, opening it, prepping it, dating it, making sure it's sufficient for process. And that does take some time. Pulling staples is also something we have to do because we have a scanning problem. So we have to make sure we get those out and ready. Like I mentioned, we hired some additional temporary employees. We are sitting with 2 right now that have been long-term and doing phenomenal for us, with room for a few more. We also have staff that's been working overtime, coming in on their days off, Saturday mornings, staying late, coming in early, asking me, on a text, hey, I got this one more thing I need to do. Yes, please do it. They really are doing all that they can in their day. We also, as mentioned, designated additional staff to answering the prior slides, unread emails and phone calls, one of which is full-time. Every other week, she's at home, working from home strictly on email. Myself, Rick, our administrative coordinators, people in our office that have no motor vehicle experience have also been jumping in there. We're really trying to get everybody, all hands on deck on that, to knock that down as much as we can. We were also given 4 provisional pins to move additional staff over, hire some additional people to come in and learn and get those titles and those renewals and all that business work process. So that adds 4 more people to our FTE count. I have been working closely with our partners at Pay It to enhance the MyWICO app to see what we can creatively, whether it be permanently or temporarily, push through that app instead of it coming in here manually. So we're working through some ideal opportunities there. A few other things we wanted to mention we did a live Facebook question and answer session, followed up with public relations and recorded a secondary version of that we pushed that same day with additional response and questions that we came from that live feed that we've answered. We did a report with the News Channel 41 and Fox 4. We provided a pretty specific 1-page citizen newsletter front and back that explained all of that public release type of information, where you can go, what you can and cannot do. Mass email out, did a blast there. We've pushed multiple press releases, and we continue to update that information when and if something was to change and get it on our website. I'm the content editor. I do that as quickly as I can and get it pushed whenever something major has changed. Sometimes it was 10 times a day, but we did what we could to get that out there. Let's see, next slide I have is going to be some of the barriers we have. We are very much still running into those barriers, one of which is, yes, we are still closed here at the courthouse where I'm at today. The downtown location for motor vehicle has not reopened. First and foremost is going to be because of social distancing. It's a lot different here than out at the Annex out west, which is behind glass. There is that logistical piece there, but we're working through all of that. And then again, we have to reiterate, there is still an estimated 18,000 transactions sitting at home in people's mailboxes or on their kitchen tables, hands of the public that have deadlines that were extended all the way to the end of the year, that just want to come in and see us, and they just haven't been able to get in yet. So that's the unknown, the barrier that is the most scariest for us to consider, is that it's not that they're here and we can't get to them, it's that they're at home and they can't get in to do the business one way, virtually or not. Of course, there's the Dropbox, and we encourage everybody to use it, but there are situations that come up where you can't, and we're here and we're trying to make that happen. A big thing we have is things like tonight, getting the information out there, letting them know their deadlines, when the office's hours are, what's closed, what can I do, what can I not do? How do we continue to push that information with all that's going on outside of our control? I can't get boots on the ground. I can't go door to door. I would offer that, but I can't, and I will not. So how do we just continue to give that information to the resident about what we can and cannot do and where we are? Continuing on with a few other barriers, we do have an outdated IVR phone system that's about 20 years old. Yes, Rick and I will both admittedly agree that the system has been dropping calls, and it is frustrating, and it is no rhyme or reason. Unfortunately, we just can't get that replaced. It's unable to be changed or replaced or updated. I can't even tell someone how long their call is or how long their wait is, or give them a callback option. I can't give them messages about what's going on, where they can go, what they can do, because the system is just outdated and there's no way to change it. But we accept that, and there is a problem, and we want a solution. And the Unified Government's ID department has a plan to replace it. We started that pre-COVID, and we're going to keep pushing for that and continue to move forward into this, getting something replaced in 2021. A lot of what we tell people is, I know you want to hear someone's voice, but try the email, because we're really trying to get through those emails and get you that answer. And you can have it in black and white and read it, and we can get your response a lot quicker. One other thing, potential barrier is, yes, we've diverted staff from processing to handle backlog of call and email. So there is one less person potentially doing motor vehicle work, but there's still that backlog, and we are just constantly juggling that versus another. So it's a potential barrier we have on getting that business opportunity out. Kind of go into where we are. Yes, the Annex is open to the public. Logistically, it allows for proper social distancing based on COVID requirements today. The building, for sake of argument, is not open to the public. Our operation is the only one that has the walk-in capabilities. So security has the means to let in who has an appointment via the ticket queuing system and keep those that do not out. Additionally, we have the frontline windows behind glass. Staff and every employee is protected in that environment. And for the public, we have the stickers, and the lobby is wide open. Security can better control the foot traffic in and out, as I mentioned, which is a requirement, and it's better that way. We keep it in and out, 10 in, 10 out, or whatever that looks like each day. But we had to divert some of the staff from our downtown location to fill those windows, which alleviates some of the burden out there, but creates a little bit of an issue here downtown with the mail and drop off we get that we process here. Next thing we want to go over is the plans for the future. We do plan to reopen the courthouse location, anticipating that to be in the month of October. We still will require the constituent to reserve their place in line online through our motor vehicle online queuing system, and will not be allowed into our office or even up to the floor, I'm assuming, based on security's discussions and things we're working on, without that proof of appointment, or excuse me, not appointment, but virtual ticket, if you will, which will come via text message when you check in online. Keep in mind, if you're hearing this, seeing this live, yes, it is taking us about 5 minutes every morning. The average time of cutoff is about 8:05 a.m. at the Annex. We feel that is probably going to be similar here downtown. Getting in online at 8 a.m. is the best course of action. Again, we prefer you try the Dropbox over that, but we know there will be the need, and we will be here. We first and foremost have to get the vacancies we have and proper staffing to the full capacity, because right now I don't have enough employees to sit at those windows to process any work. So we're getting through that, and we have strong plans moving forward. We just got to get them in here and get them trained and get them ready to meet all of you and have them all come in and do your work. And from there, I switched to what I believe was given to each of you is a formalized version of this, which is a motor vehicle frequently asked question document that allows essentially the things that we're hearing and seeing as main hot topic items that people just need to know, and they want to simply get that dropped, or that email hasn't been seen yet. Facebook Live questions, things that we've got multiple times that are just simple answers that we want to provide you all for you to better serve your communities and give that answer, if that's on your email or printing it out or whatever you need us to do. We really want to give you what we know as hot tips and things that can better gauge those discussions with your constituents. With that, I'm going to kind of go to the end, which is, anyone have questions for Rick or I, or comments or things you're hearing and seeing that we may not be aware of? We're here to listen, and what can we do to make this better?
Mike Kane.
Rick and Andrea, and I just have a couple of questions. So I understand that there are a lot of folks who just simply want to come in person. Describe who I see in the frequently asked questions kind of addressed there. What are the things that can be done by mail and by Dropbox? What kinds of those things can be handled, and what are those that have to be done in person? In other words, well, what has to be done in person? What are some of those issues?
Great. To answer your question, Technically, I do not need any individual to bring anything into this office unless there's a unique situation. For example, there's a delinquent personal property stop or a plate was seized, something that the mail doesn't have a body to handle, which would be me or a mid-level supervisor or someone that has to come over to Treasury first, or it's a unique, rare 1950 antique vehicle that just doesn't work well in a virtual discussion. Those are the one-offs. We have the insurance issues, which is some companies offer what's considered a pay here, buy here, 30-day type of insurance. And that feature does not pull into the system that Cador uses for renewal purposes. You have to have a 12-month policy for that to go into effect to renew. So those situations need to be done via Dropbox or mail. And a barrier we have is there are some people just want to do cash, and you don't ever want to mail cash. So that's something we see, but technically nothing needs to be done in person anymore based on the form I've created and the things that we've been working on with Pay It, nothing.
Okay, and then, so the problem is folks just don't either if they want to do cash. So how many transactions normally would be cash? What percentage do you think?
For me and my 3 years back up here, I would say the percentage is at least 60 to 70%, a good 50% on average, but traditionally on a good even day, it's heavily cash, 50%, 60%.
Okay. Do you know, I mean, obviously you probably had conversations with folks from other counties. Do they have similar kinds of circumstances there?
From my perspective, no. It's a lot lower. I know in the Johnson County community, I'm from there. We have direct, conference calls with them, and we don't hear those same conversations about underbanking like we have here.
Okay. And would these primarily be Spanish speakers?
Diverse. I mean, I can't tell you myself. I've exposed it from the frontline level when I did things at that level, and there was no one specific type of individual. Some people just don't trust banks. Some people just like cash, or they do construction, so they get paid cash. It's all over the board.
So there's no identifying feature there that we could reach out to that group of people to try and get them to even to send mail order, a check, a cashier's check or something like that, right?
I mean, we could attempt. We would just kind of have to start really closely watching what's coming in right now and the discussions that, the supervisors are having with those that are calling and complaining about that option. But it's been on my goals to reach out to those types of communities. It just hasn't happened, honestly.
Well, it's an issue larger than just the Treasury Department. It's really, the BPU has the same issues as well. So this is not unique to the Treasurer's office. I think
I imagine.
And Mayor, unfortunately, there is a lack of understanding that even if you do want to use cash, you can still use your cash and go get a money order and then submit that. You aren't required, just because that's all you have is cash. That is your only option, is to walk in with cash. And so it's another one of those multiple educational issues that we'd like to try and get out there.
I have a question.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Kane.
Can you go back to where you try to log on to get your position?
I'm sorry.
To
What did
log
you
on
say?
where you get your number, so when you come in there.
Okay.
Can you show that on your screen here? You just had it a minute ago.
Where to log in? That would be
How you get your number. Okay,
Yes.
reserve your spot in line. And this is the issue that I have. There are several senior citizens out there that don't even own a computer. And if they do, they gotta wait till their kid comes over to show them what's going on. And that's why you get some of the folks up there going, hey, I don't have a computer. I don't know how to reserve my spot in line. So how do we fix that?
right now, what we're doing is actually the first 10 to 15, depending on day. Monday, Friday is usually a heavier process than Tuesday through Thursday. We pull manual tickets for those that are out there that state that very thing. We don't want people standing there and at 8:02 when the security opens that door telling 10 people, sorry, you have to leave because it's full. So we are trying to perpetuate that by at least giving 10 to 15 is about how many people I see on our camera in the morning that get that manual ticket and get the opportunity that they didn't have on their phone.
I think it's
Well,
important to
the other
know.
day, one of the guys got there about 8:15 and it's important to
Commissioner,
know what.
we, in July, we were forced to not use the queue because it was not working right. And so the result was we had individuals that were basically treating it as crashing the doors, and they were showing up at, I heard as early as I think 2 a.m, waiting to get the tickets that we were going to issue manually that day at the door. And so it's kind of a catch-22. We're trying to accommodate all of the public, not just the ones that have computer access, but we also have limitations that if we had a situation like that, we literally were having very large crowds of individuals standing outside the door at 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning with no security around. And remember, we just talked about how a large percentage of these people are standing there with cash in hand. And it was a dangerous situation. And that's why we require the spots online before we can get them in. It's just a way that we can funnel it in a safe way. But on the other hand, we're aware that not everybody has a computer, and we try to accommodate those the best we can as well.
Yeah, I guess I'm being frozen some. And I just want to repeat what I said. There have been people that cannot don't have a computer, don't know how to use a computer. Then they've been outside in line, and then they've been sent away. And I know that what you just said, I didn't hear that before, but we have got to figure out something to take care of those that don't have computers. And if I had to answer, I'd tell you what it was, but I don't. But is there any way we can open up earlier than she said, than in October?
We have in the pipeline the additional of 6 staff members, and we don't even have them in our office yet. They haven't been trained yet. Those are the ones that we're counting on to open the downtown office. If we were to open prior to having those people in place, all that will happen is we will have to move half of the staff that we have at the Annex downtown, and we'll have half staff at both offices. I mean, in essence, that's where we currently are.
Is 6 people enough?
Well, it's what we've got that's coming in. We're taking everything we can get, obviously.
Here's a good time to ask for more.
I have a high level of confidence. And I don't want to paint a horrible picture here, but I have a high level of confidence that things will not be normal for our operation until 2021. To put in perspective, we mentioned we think we are about 18,000 transactions behind. To put that into perspective, we process 15,000 transactions in a month. So 18,000 is over a month's worth of work. And I think anybody who's gone into the motor vehicle operation in the last 10 years, you know, when you go in there, there's going to be a wait. There's simply no capacity anywhere in the calendar where we can expect to be able to catch up on 5 and 6 months worth of work that we got behind because the doors were closed. So the 6 that we have, we get them in, if we get them in here and we get them started, it will be the first time since I've been treasurer that we would have a full staff in the 3 years, almost 3 years I've been doing this position. I'm hopeful that those numbers are going to make real difference once we get them producing.
I would also like to add that to the staffing question, we have borrowed 2 positions from delinquent real estate who previously worked for motor vehicle and they're trained on it. So we're using them. We've added 4 temporary pins and have added those to the staffing level. And we brought in 2 to 3 temps. So I mean, not only are we fully staffed, but we have augmenting the existing staff level. And to your question, Commissioner Kane, on the employee or the resident who doesn't have access to the computer, wants to pay, but only has cash to pay, the recommendation is for that person to get a money order and submit it through the mail or drop it in the Dropbox. And then they don't have to come at all or get a ticket. They just drop it off.
That's easier said than done, considering some of these folks are 75 and 80 years old and don't have a family member to rely on.
Commissioner Bynum?
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a series of questions and I'm going to ask all of them, and I've got them written down so that if we have to go back, I can, catch you up with what the next question is. But before I do that, Rick and Andrea, would you please share with your staff how much I appreciate how hard they are working? I can't imagine it. What I can do is remember my time working as a motor vehicle clerk and processing hundreds of renewals on the last day of the month and being exhausted. So I really hope you'll share my appreciation with your workers. So here go my questions.
I'm ready.
I'm gonna rattle them off. Number 1, I've heard that picking up the new personalized license plates requires an in-person visit. So yes or no on that. Second, is a mid-October opening of the courthouse realistic given the training time needed for motor vehicle staff? Number 3, if I get an electronic number to be in line on a specific day, will I be waited on that day? As far as I know, you do cut off the line at a certain time. Doesn't some of the money that funds motor vehicle operations come from the state? And are you dealing with state motor vehicle processing software that is slow? I know we had that very serious issue years back, and I don't know for sure how corrected it is. And I also don't know, but here's a suggestion, and it's nothing more than that for you all to discuss internally. Is there any benefit whatsoever to having temporary motor vehicle kiosks at the NRC? And I do think that probably comes back to your same staffing issue. But those are my questions. I can repeat any one of them that you're ready for, but I'll shut up and let you answer. Thank you so much.
Could you repeat number 3 for me? About the queue. I'm sorry, I have a very poor internet connection here at the courthouse, so I keep freezing.
My third question was, if I get in line online for a specific day's business, knowing that you cut off the line at a certain time, but I have a number, will I be waited on?
Okay. Let me start with number one. Personalized license plates do have a letter that was sent out January 1-ish from Kansas Department of Revenue that did state you need to go into your county treasurer's office to do that business. That is not the case right now, nor will it be in the future. We are making a way for you to do that electronically the best we can. We created a temporary checkout page with Pay It. If we get a hold of someone and you can't come in, we're asking you to inter-office mail it, drop it off, mail it in, and we're working through that virtually the best we can. One of those things I mentioned, working with Pay It to kind of add those operational transactions through there. We are not requiring anyone come in person to do that business.
Andrea, just to stop there real quick,
Mhm.
I have to turn in my number plate to get my personal tag. So does that mean I'm going to go a period with no tag?
I'm sorry, everything froze again. I heard something about turning in a number plate for a personalized plate.
Is that correct? Do I turn in my number plate to get my personalized plate? And if so,
Essentially,
am I then going without a tag for a while?
so now that we went through a little over a year and a half with the digital license plate process, we no longer need to physically furnish dead plates, is what we call them, into the office any longer. Some people want to keep them just because they're the last series of that type of plate. No, we actually do not require you come in and bring an exchange, because they're going to mail you your new personalized plate. What we'll provide temporarily is the temporary version of it via an email or mail, or however the constituent requests that temporary copy that they have for about 10 days until the printing company gets you the actual aluminum plate in the mail.
Thanks. You can keep going.
Are those all your questions?
That's all my questions.
Okay.
I must be cutting in and out, but that's all the questions I have. If you want to keep answering.
Yes, sorry. I keep getting frozen. I apologize. I'm trying to stop talking when I see that happen. My next answer would be the discussion related to mid-October based on the training and the environment for our staff. Yes, potentially mid-October. What it looks like today, for the last 3 years, we've really overhauled what we call motor vehicles training environment, which is called a boot camp, just to give it a fun title. It is 10 operational days of mandatory back office training, one-on-one, to really learn the material at the ground level. And then we put them live at day 10. So that's kind of the turnaround we would foresee, is needing about 10 business days once we get them physically here in our office. With nothing else on that one, your third question, as long as you have established yourself a queue ticket, you will be seeing that business day, whether it's a little delayed or we are there till the last ticket number at 6:30 at night. As long as that ticket has been reserved and you have proof of it, you will be seen in that business day.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. State funding, yes. A lot of what we collect is funding that we send direct to the state and then is redistributed through distribution process. Rick could probably elaborate on that a little bit more if necessary. But all of the fees that we collect are not all leveled at the city county level. There are state fees that are then again redistributed back to the county through our technology fund and things of that nature. Next question, you asked about our state system of record. The software we use was outdated. Kansas Department of Revenue did replace, and we have the newest and greatest shiny new, a little over a year upgraded software that the UG's IT department helped us get furnished immediately, and we're working on what would be a year into it. And it is tenfold so much better from when I used it back about 5 years ago. It directly syncs addresses through USPS service as opposed to manual entry at this frontline level. So we have less and less errors on address problems. Community areas, it keeps a lot more data and it's just more robust. So it is not one of the arguments we have about delay of business any longer.
Thank you. That's excellent news.
Thank you. So I'm just going to go in. I don't know which of the commissioners raised their hand first, so we'll go to Christian Ramirez. Mr. Ramirez?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. More so, I'm just going to make a overall comment. I want to thank Rick and Andrea and your department and all your staff. I can't imagine what you have gone through, all of the paperwork and the processing, and dealing with constituents, and sometimes some of them aren't as patient as they should or understand what's happening. But I will definitely do my part and tell my constituents to please be patient with the process, work with the Treasury Department so that we can get through this and that you aren't overwhelmed as much as you should be. So I will definitely do my part. So I want to thank you for everything you have done, that you continue to do. I'll say again, can't imagine the work and countless hours that you put into reduce that backlog. And so just thank you for all that you do. Our staff is amazing here at the UG. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner McKiernan?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to echo the thanks that have been given by my fellow commissioners to both of you and your staffs for all the work that you are continuing to do. When we had a private conversation a couple of weeks ago and you told me about the 18,000 backlog and how that was more volume than you would typically process in a month's time, that was really sobering, and it kind of framed this in terms of the enormity of the task that you are undertaking. So thanks for your continued work. Be sure to always let us as commissioners, be sure to always let the people that you report to through the administrator's office know what you need, whether it be personnel, whether it be software, whether it be equipment. Even if we can't provide it at the time, just let us know what you need to make hay and to improve service delivery for our constituents. To go back to what Commissioner Kane had said, I think he brings up a really good point, and I'm going to suggest something that's probably impossible based on funding and based on staffing. But we have a lot of people who don't have computers in our community, but they do have a phone and they can make a phone call. And in the exchange that you had, that Kathleen had with Commissioner Kane, he talked about people not wanting to mail in cash. And she said, well, but you could get a money order. Maybe somebody had never even thought of that. So what if we had a concierge type person who could just do nothing but answer that phone and problem solve? Kathleen engaged in some problem solving right there and gave an option that a resident might not have even thought of before. So if it were possible for us to have somebody who just spent their days answering phones, answering the phone, reassuring people, solving problems, giving them options, giving them suggestions, I think that might have a great deal of value. I know all the barriers to making it happen, but a concierge, somebody who knows stuff, would be really powerful. The third thing is, I want to really thank you for putting together the frequently asked questions. When you said that we got a copy of it, I went, no, we haven't, but now I see it's in my email box. So I think one of the things that I and my fellow commissioners need to do is we need to distribute the frequently asked questions and their answers through all of our channels. I'm hoping that we're going to put them out on all of our UG electronic channels, but I'm also hoping that they or something close to them are going to be in the next issue of The Citizen. That paper communication tool that doesn't require the internet, doesn't require a cell phone, but goes to every household. So I think another thing that I and my fellow commissioners need to do is make sure that we promote through our neighborhood groups, through livable neighborhoods, that people look for and people read The Citizen, because there's going to be a lot of good stuff in there. And then finally, one thing that I will just say, I think this is an area where I can understand the anxiety that some of our residents might have. You remember I sent you an email that I had gotten, and the person who sent the email said, the website says if you send all your paperwork in and it's not correct, they won't notify you. That's really scary. You do your best, you send it in, and when you don't hear anything, you assume it's right. I think most people would assume, well, I didn't hear anything. They didn't tell me it was wrong, so it must be right. But in fact, it's the opposite. If you don't hear anything, it probably was wrong. if there's any way that we could think about how we feed back to people, oops, no, you did that wrong. Again, a lot of people are turning in forms on a once every few years basis when they're not just doing a simple renewal, but there's something that they've done that requires forms they're not familiar with. They fill them out to the best of their ability, but they missed something. I think we really have to find a way to feed back to them, ooh, you missed it, fix this, and then we can move it on through the process. So if there's any way to do that, I think that'd be great. Again, thanks. You've made tremendous progress. We'll just keep working.
Commissioner Philbrook?
Yes, hopefully I don't, everything everybody has said so far. And can you still hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
but you cut out a little bit.
Yeah, so what else is new? I'm gonna cut out. So anyway, I do want to say thank you very much for this report and coming on and let us know how things have been for you and your workers, because we know it has been no party. And thank you, Commissioner, all the other commissioners for all their suggestions. Yes, we should promote the citizen. And yes, we're finally using the livable neighborhoods information line much, much more. And that's definitely all of our stuff needs to go through there. I like the concierge concept. That's an FTE. And I don't know how we'd work that into our budget, but it is an FTE. And let's see, I have sent some people on to you that had questions me that they did get a hold of a live body and they did get to talk to someone and that you guys helped them. They didn't really know what to do or how to do it. Thank you for that. And I also, if you send something in and it's not right, you won't hear about it. Well, gee, that's very scary. You know, not that COVID isn't scary, but just the concept of you don't know what the heck happened to all the paperwork you sent in. Does that mean it was lost in the mail? Does that mean it got lost under somebody's desk? You know what I'm saying, Rick? It'd be kind of like you sent your check, kind of like if you sent your money into the state and you didn't hear anything out of them. 2 months later, you get a bill, them saying you didn't file and
Yeah.
pay more on top of it. So that's kind of a scary concept. So if you can do something about that, I really think everybody would appreciate that. And then the other thing is what did you say about extended deadline until December? What exactly is extended?
So the deadline that is extended is going to be a newly acquired vehicle that you purchased in the months of March, April, May, and then not June. So just March through May. The March deadline has ceased. It would have been the end of August. So the next one would be April, which is due by the end of this month for any title work without any penalty or interest. Then anybody who purchased in May, their deadline, March, April, May, their deadline would be in October. And then it follows that month period. I'm sure I'm missing something because I've spit it off so much it's like blurred in my brain, but they've given a deadline. The governor's executive order has extended the time you have to title a car based on the month you purchased during the worst of our pandemic when we were closed.
What are they giving you, like 90 days or something?
It's some of it is more than that. It just depends on what month you purchase. Let me see if I can't find. Did I include that? I don't think I included that on this one.
It is on the frequently asked question list that was sent out.
Well, I can only read one at a time. Have that in front of me. I'm good.
But it goes to the end of December based on the last month of pandemic that the order followed.
Okay. How lenient are we? And this is probably more of a police question, but I'm just wondering, you know, how lenient we're being on people on their renewals of some of the issues that they've been going through and trying to fight their way through. Have you had any feedback from the police on anything, Andrea?
For me, I've had more feedback from the resident level as opposed to law enforcement in a positive manner, that they have not been getting pulled. I've had from my level, most of those types of calls should be coming to me as advised by staff. And I've had one constituent who had a similar issue getting pulled over, but it was for unrelated reasons. And it was not truly based on the expiration of their license plate. So I have had no complaints about them actually getting what they should not be getting, which is a ticket or even being stopped for something. Myself included, I've had a truck that we haven't titled just to kind of test it. I mean, I live here, I work here, and I left it in my driveway a little bit longer, and I have gotten no feedback from it, and might as well. I mean, I've titled it, I promise, but no, I've had no negative ramifications from our residents getting pulled over for these issues for the executive order.
Well, I am very pleased to hear that, because I know that we're under the gun, so to speak, and it's can be very scary for people. They're afraid, oh no, I get pulled over and I'm going to end up in jail. You know, I don't have money to pay or whatever it is.
And when those orders went out, we first point of contact we made was with law enforcement, both sheriff and head of police, and make sure that we were all under the same page with that as well. It was clean and clear. And we tell everyone, you are okay. If it is expired, keep it on there. It's better to have something on your truck or car than nothing, of course. But if it falls off, or if it's, you know, an old one, it's paper. It's bound to get destroyed eventually by the weather. You're okay. As long as you are providing the documentation that shows that you purchased during an executive order timeframe, and, you know, get in here sooner than later. I still tell everyone, just because you have a deadline, we don't tell you you should wait, because you and 18,000 other people are potentially thinking the same thing.
And in our discussions with the state, we've always brought that up for the last 6 months. Anytime that there was adjustments being made to the schedule, to make sure that the state was also doing everything they could to reach out to law enforcement throughout the state to notify them. We have a very good communication with our KCKPD and our sheriff department, and we've been ensuring that we're trying to make sure they hear it from us as well as from others, but we can't control every department in the state. So we know the state is working hard to make sure that word is out there too, in the law enforcement community.
I appreciate that feedback, and I didn't come across as me trying to throw anybody under the bus on this, because I definitely, that was not the intention, but I figured that if anybody would have heard that, it would be y'all.
Oh yes.
Getting your ears chewed on.
No.
I hadn't heard anything either, just concerns. That's all. That
it's natural. It's concerning to not have something due, and you don't have to potentially do it on a time frame you were expected to. So it's there, but we're giving the answers.
Thanks so much for all your hard work, and we're praying. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mayor, I wanted to answer a question regarding the concierge idea. So one of the ideas we have tossed around is adding more phone lines to, you know, that slide that we had earlier about the IVR phone line system and how it's 20 years old. So adding on additional phone lines in order to expand our ability to answer the phones and respond to questions would probably take about 6 weeks. And that's because the vendor, you know, was just really backed up, and it's hard to get additional licenses for such an old system. And then to bring on the staff and train them to do that. So that's just, you know, that we're exploring every option, and we have been, you know, having conversations about that option, but there's also barriers to that as well. So.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. And Kathleen, I think that was a perfect segue to the question that I was going to ask. It was along those various lines. First of all, Rick and Andrea, I just can't imagine what it's been like these past few months for you all. And so again, hats off, as has been from all of my colleagues, hats off to you all for just stepping up to the plate and doing the very best you can in these strenuous times. And please do communicate to your staffs that the commission at large is appreciative of the work that they have done and the countless hours that they have devoted to getting this done. So I'm always talking about money, I guess. That's just the way things are in my world. So as we look at the lines that Kathleen spoke of to update and or replace our phone system, as we talk about the FTEs and any other related items, do we know how much that's going to cost us? And have those items, and this can be to either Kathleen or Doug, or to you, Rick or Andrea, have those items been accounted for within the budget? And if we're looking into 2021, does that mean that we need to make some revisions, or how have those items been accounted for budget-wise? I guess I'll just leave it open like that and let any one of you all respond to it.
Well, luckily we both actually, Rick submitted this application, but the dollars to pay for a lot of these special items in order to fight the COVID pandemic has been submitted through the CARES Act. So, and they're in the process of being approved. So that's how we're paying for it.
When I look to the positions, Commissioner, so as we note 4 provisional pins, that means those are positions that are not approved within the budget. So they staff up, they fill all their positions. Those are the authorized positions. They're all authorized to move forward and get those filled. We added the additional 4, and those are ones I authorized based on the fact that I'm just taking money from other areas, holding other vacancies, because I see this as one of our areas, if not the area of the highest need, that has to have positions filled within it. So as we fill those positions, I mean, unfortunately, one thing that's a reality within this department, if we get to the point where, you know, you walk into the motor vehicle office and somebody's sitting there waiting and says, "Oh, hey, good to see you today. Thanks for coming in," and can start waiting on you, then I can start to reduce those positions back down. But the reality is with this department, they have high enough turnover to move through 4 positions. If I needed to reduce back down, is probably not that long of a time frame to move through. And I'll say that's 2 ways. It's some people come in, they work there a while and go. I think the Treasurer's Office has also done an excellent job of recruiting people. They come in, they start into this area, and they're talented employees that look for other jobs within the unified government, and then they're promoted out. So it's not just because they come in, hire, and leave. It's because they find other opportunities to advance in our organization.
Gotcha. That's good. That is good news. Have you all attached any dollar figures, even if it's being paid through the CARES Act? Have we attached any dollar figures as to how much this would be needed to be allocated to or reallocated? I don't care, however you guys look at it. Is there a dollar figure attached to all of these?
Alan, do you know the dollar figure that's associated to the phone system?
Not off the top of my head, but it was one of the projects that was, the funding amount was included in the CARES Act. I want to say it's probably around 30,000, but I can go back and confirm that. It's kind of in that ballpark.
Okay, yeah, I just kind of, yeah, 30,000 is palatable for me. I don't know that I have a threshold, but 30,000 certainly falls within the the area that sounds reasonable to me. So
and it serves, it's not just finance, it's also 311 in municipal court. So it'd be a UG wide IVR system that would give a lot more sort of flexibility and ability to change messages and adapt and that sort of thing.
Even better.
Yeah.
All right.
And then the temp agency contract that we entered into that's paid for with CARES dollars, I'm remembering it to be around $30,000 or $40,000. That would be through the end of the year. So
yeah, both sound like reasonable figures to me. So thank you.
All right, I think we need to be moving on, but I want to thank staff for bringing this presentation forward. It's timely, necessary, and again, reiterate to you that if you have needs, you need to, again, bring it up through staff and also let us know, Doug, what they're asking for if we can help. All right, thank you again. Now we move on to our next, which is the session from a report from our election commissioner, Mr. Bruce Newby.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes,
Can I be heard?
Yes, we can, Bruce.
Okay. Come on. There we go. And okay, getting started. I'm bringing you up to speed on what's going on with elections this year. Obviously, part of this first slide is history. We're already past the primary election, and the next thing up is the November 3rd general election. Okay, there we go. On this November ballot, I won't read to you, but we've got it basically, it's federal offices and state offices that are on the ballot. A lot of times district court judges and the district attorneys are thought of as being Wyandotte County, but they are in fact a state office. So that's the ones that are on the general election ballot. Voter registration, we stand at 87,156, but I've given you a number, 77,357 of those are active. The difference between an active voter and an inactive voter is someone that we have evidence that they no longer live in the county. So they're listed as inactive because they have not voted, and we have received notification from the U.S. Postal Service that they've moved out of the county. So, next slide. By party, and these are active voters only. We have 38,000 and change Democratic affiliations, unaffiliated 24,000. There's 14,000 and change Republicans and 641 Libertarian. That's the way it breaks out by party. Okay. Yeah, primary election. Okay. Primary election voter turnout was very interesting. We had a turnout of 17,353 Democratic voters and 6,428 Republican voters. That represents 45% of all Democrats voted in the primary election. 46% voted in the Republicans voted in the primary election. Now you have to remember that the primary election was in fact a party election, so only people registered with the Democratic Party or the Republican Party were eligible to vote. For the general election, I don't have a crystal ball, so I'm giving you the numbers of what has happened previously in terms of turnout. In 2016, we had a 63% voter turnout. In 2018, it was 51%, but that was the midterm, 2016 being a presidential election. The presidential, next furthest back presidential election that had any significant turnout at all was 64% in 2008. We we have a deadline of this Saturday to mail all the voting ballots to federal voters. Those are military personnel and people who are overseas civilians. The number on my chart was 72. That was done today, and I've already got an update. That number is now 79. We have had 15,680 applications submitted. This is in addition to the federal, submitted for this election. We are now up to date. We've got all those applications entered. All we're doing on a daily basis now is entering the new applications that come in. We will do a mass mailing for all the ballots that we have applications for. We'll do a mass mailing on October the 14th. But voters are not dead yet. They have until October the 28th to apply for a mail ballot. Now, I will caveat that with, don't wait till the deadline. Because if you wait to the deadline to apply, it may take, the post office's delivery standard is 3 to 5 days. So if you submit your application on October the 28th and the post office doesn't deliver that to us until October 30th or 31st, it may be a physical impossibility. We drop your ballot in the mail, but it may be a physical impossibility that you get it on time for election day. So if you want to make sure that when you vote by mail, that you get your ballot on time and you're able to return it on time, the only way to do that is don't wait till the deadline. Get your application in now, the sooner the better. Okay. There are some ballot return options. When a voter receives their ballot and votes it, they can return the ballot by mail, but it has to be postmarked on or before election day, and it has to be received in our office by Friday, November the 6th. Your ballot, a voter's mail ballot, can be returned or delivered to the election office so long as it's delivered by 7 p.m. on election day. One of the things that we are working on getting is 2 drop boxes. The Secretary of State has ordered 2 drop boxes for us. They're due for delivery to us by the 3rd week in October. I'm not counting my chickens before they hatch. Hopefully we will in fact have the drop boxes, but until I have them, I can't, my plan is right now, they'll be located at the election office so the person who wants to drop off their ballot does not have to come inside. They can just drop it in a drop box.
Mr. Newby, can you advance the slide, please?
Can I? Oh, well, I'm talking because there's not a slide. Oh, there it is. Okay. I'm sorry. Delivered to the election office, and I didn't have the information about Dropbox on this, but there are going to be 2, or hopefully there will be 2, assuming that the vendor delivers them to us on time. Then the other option that voters have is they can deliver their ballot to any polling place by 7 p.m. on election day. Those are the options for returning it. Now, obviously, on return, a voter doesn't have to personally do it. It can be returned by someone of their designation, but there is a statement on the ballot that needs to be signed if somebody else is going to return that ballot. There's also a statement on the ballot. Let me back up. There's a voter statement that's statement number 1. Statement number 2 is where that voter appoints someone else to return their ballot, or if someone else assists them in voting their ballot. And then there's a statement 3 on the envelope that is to be used by people who are permanently disabled or have a permanent illness that makes them unable to sign their own ballot. And in that case, the person assisting should sign the voter's name in statement 1 and then sign their name in statement 3. I realize this all sounds complicated, but it's what the legislature decided we needed to do, and that's why there's now 3 statements on the back of that envelope. Okay, next slide. We have 3 locations for early voting: the election office, Eisenhower Recreation Center, and Joe Amayo Argentine Community Center. The 3 locations give voters a total of 156 voting hours available for voting. Basically, we will start advanced voting at the election office on October the 20th. We will start it at Eisenhower Recreation Center on October the 20th. And at the Argentine Recreation Center, it won't start until October the 26th. Now, the reason for that, I'm sorry, October the 24th. The reason for the difference is when we did advanced voting for the primary election at Argentine Community Center, we had maybe 10 people showed up on that entire first week that we were open. So I could not see the point, and it's not cost effective for me to have advanced voting at the Argentine Community Center if no more voters are going to show up than that. And so I've adjusted the advanced voting hours accordingly. But before anybody gets upset, you can go to the election office, you can go to Eisenhower Recreation Center, and you can vote any precinct, any ballot at both of those locations. The same thing, you know, obviously once Argentine Community Center is open for voting, you can vote any precinct, any ballot there. Okay, on election day, polls were open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The sample ballots will be posted to voter view on or after October the 15th. The 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. hours. I am concerned that we get enough people that will vote an advanced ballot by mail. We've already got, as I said, 15,680 who have applied, but I would like to see that number double. And it needs to double in order to be able to hold down the number of people that will show up to polling places on election day. Now, why is that important? It's important because we now have to practice social distancing, and so that will automatically create longer lines and longer wait times because we can't let everybody into the polling place at once. So I beg people, please vote by mail because that is going to be your safest and cleanest option. Just get it done early. We will have 27 polling places open on election day. I'm sorry for the coughing. But unfortunately, I've been exposed to somebody with COVID-19. So I'm planning on getting myself tested. And we need election workers. Training begins for election workers on October the 5th. So if we have people who want to volunteer to be an election worker, they need to apply sooner rather than later because we need to get them trained. And as I said, advanced voting starts on October the 20th. So there isn't a whole lot of time to get workers trained to be able to start advanced voting. With that said, I want to give you, these are some pertinent websites that you can have, and then open it for questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Newby, for your presentation and for everything you do for the community and making sure our elections are safe, accessible, and gives everyone an opportunity to vote. The only question I have, and this number, you mentioned this number when we sat as the Board of Canvassers for the primary election. What was the return rate for mail-in ballots in the primary?
The return rate.
Out of all of the ballots that were mailed out,
yeah, out of the ballots, for the primary election, there were a total of 11,616 ballots requested. 10,858 of those came back, and that's a 93% return rate, and that is absolutely fabulous. People who vote by mail vote.
That's amazing, and I hope that we increase more people who turn out to vote and remember to mail in their ballot. I always make sure I tell my constituents and everyone that I know to, you know, and I always, to me, elections are Super Bowls to me. So it's fun, but I always tell everyone, especially during the time of COVID, it's more safe, like you said, to do a mail-in ballot. So I will do my part of pushing people to do more mail-in balloting. So, but again, thank you to you and your department and your office to make sure that we have safe and secure elections in Wyandotte County.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Burrows.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Newby, you've talked about the mail-in ballots, and you talked about the tight timeline for those to be mailed at the late request. My question is, there's much discussion about the drop-offs, and some of the ballots in the past have been disallowed because they didn't have a postmark. And so, how do we plan on dealing with that? Some guidance on what we can tell our constituents that may want to ask for an advanced ballot and where they may drop those off. If the drop box is going to be available, or are we going to disallow their votes?
Okay, the drop box will be available until 7 p.m. on election night. The legal requirement is if a voter chooses to mail their ballot back to us, it has to be postmarked by election day, on or before election day, and received by our office by Friday of that week. There is no option in Kansas law for a voter to drop anything in a drop box after election night.
And Mr. Newby, I appreciate that response. Thank you. I just want to ensure that we're able to tell our constituents in Wyandotte County that we're not any different than anyone else in any other community, that if you have a advanced ballot and you drop it off, it's not going to have the mail insignia on it that you have required in the past when we have mail-in ballots.
Yeah, when it's put in the drop box, there's no postage required.
Thank you for that clarification. I sincerely appreciate your effort and your work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Newby, for all that you do. I've been brought to my attention that the mail-in ballot options, the information is being sent from Jefferson City, Missouri. The return address on the mail-in envelope, of course, has the 850 State Avenue on that, I believe. So what have you all been getting any questions about those in terms of being sent from Jefferson City, Missouri, and are those legitimate or not?
Yes, we've been getting a lot of questions. They are legitimate. We're not responsible for the letter, and neither is the Secretary of State, so I don't know what the letter said that was accompanying it, but the actual advanced ballot application is the correct application, and as long as it's sent to our office, a voter can be confident that we receive it, we process it, and the voter will receive their advanced ballot by mail.
Great, thank you so much. I'll be sure to convey that information.
There are, aside from that organization, Missouri, that's doing it, somebody apparently has deep pockets. But I understand that there may be some candidates that will be doing the same thing. The only thing that I would caution voters to make sure they check is make sure that the return address for it is our office and not going back to the person that mailed it to them. Because there are people out there that are trying to harvest voter information for purposes of identity theft.
Agreed. I totally agree with you on that. Will do.
Yes, Commissioner Johnson, it was a great question, and because I've been getting calls about that, and it's unfortunate that this organization was not transparent in public in advance that they were going to be doing these efforts, because there's enough mistrust out there already that people really do not know where this is coming from, what the motivation is, and whether it's going to be effective. So thank you for raising that question.
Well,
McKiernan?
and so you know, there's 105 county clerks or county election officers that were very upset that we got blindsided by that letter.
I can only imagine. Commissioner McKiernan?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Newby, I just want to take just a moment to express my appreciation for you and for your staff and for your volunteers. I vote early, in person, generally down at 850 State. Every time I go, I am assuming I interact with some staff and some volunteers, and they are uniformly friendly and uniformly very helpful, and they make it a pleasure to go and cast my vote. So thanks for the work you do.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Philbrook?
Okay, now that I'm unmuted, thank you. I also echo your friendly folks and how helpful they are. I also want to say, yes, the lady was very nice when she received my request to have a mail-in ballot. She took it nicely and stamped it that she'd received it, and that was really good. I didn't have to worry about whether the mail got it to you or not. Thanks so much for that. I do want to talk about the fact that yes, you need a bunch of people working the polls. How many people do you feel you're short right now?
About 75.
Pardon?
About 75.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And how much?
I'm sorry.
How much do you pay a person? Because I know you pay.
Yeah. An election worker makes $9.01 an hour.
How many? And so are you breaking them up into two sets or the whole day?
It's a whole day.
The whole day.
The administration of trying to work shifts is just too cumbersome, and you're always dealing with the potential for the person that's supposed to be there in the afternoon not showing up, and I can't take that chance. So all my election workers are there full time.
Okay. How long? How many hours is the training?
The training is under 4 hours.
4 hours. Have any idea?
4 hours of training, and then the time they spend on election day. Polls are open for 12 hours, and we require that the election worker be there 1 hour before polls open and stay at least an hour after, or until we're able to shut things down and get election results brought to the election office.
Okay, so they're getting paid to train and paid to work.
Yes, they are.
Well, okie dokie. And let's see what else I want to ask you. Oh, how many trainings do you think you're going to have to set up to take care of 75 people? Are you going to try to do it? How are you going to do this?
Well, we've already got training set 2 times a day for the first week when we start the training on October the 5th. We're prepared to do it as often as necessary to make sure that we have the required number come election day. But obviously the problem is we've got to social distance the classes as well. So there's only a limited number of people that can be in each class.
Right. Are you doing it at your headquarters?
Yes, we are.
Okay. All righty. And so just call the election office if they're interested.
Yes, and in fact, there's an application that's available on our website, at wycovotes.org. People go online, fill out the application, send it to us, and then my election worker manager will get back with them.
Okay, sounds like good information for us commissioners to share. So thanks very much, Mr. Newby.
You mentioned staffing. If I just may interject, right now I'm down 2 full-time staff, so I'm working at 80% strength, and I have 16 temporary employee vacancies. And the movement on getting those 16 hired has been slower than it's slow. The 16 positions were posted last week. As of today, we still don't have anything out of HR, so I don't know whether anybody's applied or not.
All I can say to you is OMG. I can't imagine trying to work under the stress you work in.
Well, I've told my folks that we work as much overtime as we've got to work because we don't have an option to fail. This election has to come off, and it's got to be done well, and it's got to be done right.
Looked like they had their nose to the grindstone when I walked in there today. So
yes.
So tell them that I'm smiling at them tomorrow, will you, when you see them?
Sure will. They've
Thanks.
been doing of processing the advanced ballot applications. They've been doing a little over 1,500 a day.
Oh my gosh. Woo, these people are efficient. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, that concludes our special session. Thank you, Mr. Newby, for that update. And we'll put the word out for you to try and get you some help there. We will reconvene at 7 o'clock for our regular commission meeting.